And now I want to introduce Marcello Palazzi, my friend and partner of 30 years, with whom I co-founded the first sustainable business alliances that I mentioned earlier, and who is now my co-founder in United for Regeneration and now Partners. And he's also the global ambassador of the amazing benefit corporation movement that he and others of our now partners founded across Europe and the Americas, Africa, and Asia. So Marcello, please.
Well, thank you very much, Walter. Pleasure to have been with you since the start today. I've been quite blown away, and I'm delighted, truly delighted. So I really would like to say a couple of things first and then a word of thanks. So I think that the B-Corp or Benefit Corporation movement now amounts to 12,000 companies in 77 countries with about 100,000 users. And there's two ways to actually become a B-Corp. One is by law. In 7 countries, there's a legislation called the Benefit Corporation, which acquires by law the directors of the company, the owners, to abide by transparency, stakeholder engagement, and generally a positive impact. This is really going very quickly around the world. We have started with companies like Patagonia. Well, you would expect Patagonia to be that kind of company, but increasingly we have global companies like Danone. Unilever owns 10 such companies, B Corps, and Philips is interested. We have a number of global companies on this journey. Now, the reason I mentioned this is because I was particularly impressed by Niall McCann. He was very concrete, and suddenly it made me think we can actually, at a stroke, communicate to 100,000 companies around the world the kind of things they could do to end pandemics. So I've made notes, and I want to go back to my colleagues in the B Corp movement to say, let us include questions, actions that these companies can take, because at a stroke, we can reach 100,000 companies. So that alone has been worth me being with you and listening to this wonderful presentations. I just want to say, on behalf of United for Regeneration, a very warm thank to, of course, Cardinal Turkson, the COVID Commission, the Dicastery, and of course, EndPandemics, and all of you who are doing amazing work. Really, I think that you have explained it so well, and particularly for me, my first business was in soil analysis. So when Hunter was speaking about soil carbon and so on, it made me think back, 20, 30 years ago, how that important it was, and even more important it is now. And the connection between the agriculture and health and pandemics, and what Harold Link said about what we have seen was a mild form of infection. And of course, if we don't do anything about it, we could be facing much graver infections. So that alone, I hadn't really thought about it. It sort of, all the bells were tilling in my mind. We obviously have to avoid anything like that happening for the world. And as Walter said, much cheaper to do it now than to wait, until things have gone out of proportions. So on my behalf, I will bring this message to the B Corp community. I will make sure that we have a standards team that every year upgrades the sort of questions that these companies have to answer in order to include these very concrete steps they can take to prevent pandemics. And then very finally, I would say that Walter and I have been engaged in a number of roundtables in the last few months with the Dicastery, and the good thing about us working like this globally through Zoom online is we can gather global leaders around the world and do what we could never do before. It would have taken 6 months to convene these kind of people. So let's use this power to gather all of us, good-willing leaders, entrepreneurs, investors, to make a difference towards regeneration. And of course, Walter and I and our work will continue. This is, in a way, just the beginning, but we have a very ambitious plan to work with all of you and more leaders beyond. So many thanks. Walter, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Marcello.